Do you remember the moment the predator first appeared in the jungle and turned hardened soldiers into terrified prey? It shocked audiences and kept everyone on edge. But for the cast, real life became even more brutal than the film itself. Some died tragically, while others endured surgeries, painful divorces, and devastating personal struggles. Stay with us as we uncover the truth behind their lives and honor the legacy they left behind. Carl Weathers as Dylan. Dylan walked into Predator with that massive handshake, confident grin, and fearless attitude that instantly made him look like the only man tough enough to challenge Arnold Schwarzenegger face to face. Born on January 14, 1948, in New Orleans, Louisiana, Carl Weathers was 39 years old during Predator and quickly became one of the film's most unforgettable action stars. His commanding screen presence and explosive chemistry with the cast helped make Dylan one of the most iconic characters in the entire franchise. Carl Weathers died peacefully in his sleep on February 2, 2024, at the age of 76, after quietly battling severe heart artery disease during the final years of his life. By the time of his death, he had rebuilt his career through acclaimed projects like The Mandalorian, which even earned him an Emmy nomination. His estimated net worth reportedly reached around $8 million after decades in film, television, directing, and voice acting. But behind the powerful image and Hollywood success, Weathers privately endured years of emotional turmoil caused by repeated failed marriages and painful divorce battles. His relationships with Marianne Castle, Rona Unsell, and Jennifer Peterson all collapsed under intense strain, leading to exhausting legal disputes and long periods of emotional instability. In the end, Carl Weathers overcame barriers that once tried to hold him back, and left behind the legacy of a fighter both on screen and in real life. Kevin Peter Hall as the Predator/helicopter pilot. Hidden beneath the terrifying alien armor of the Predator was Kevin Peter Hall, the gentle giant whose towering 7'2" frame and slow, animal-like movements gave the creature its unforgettable presence in Predator and Predator 2. Born on May 9, 1955, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Kevin Peter Hall was 32 years old during the first Predator film and 35 during the sequel. His physical performance transformed the Predator into one of the most legendary movie monsters ever created and became the defining role of his career. Kevin Peter Hall died on April 10, 1991. At just 35 years old after developing AIDS-related pneumonia caused by HIV-contaminated blood he received during an emergency transfusion following a serious car accident. Much of his estimated $500,000 net worth reportedly disappeared into the overwhelming medical expenses connected to his final treatments. His death shocked many fans because the actor behind one of cinema's most iconic monsters had been widely known in real life as an unusually kind and humble person. That heartbreaking ending felt especially cruel because Hall had already spent much of his life battling loneliness and rejection caused by his extraordinary height. As a child, he was frequently mocked, isolated, and physically injured while trying to fit in with other kids through sports. Even after finding love with actress Elena Reed Hall in 1988, happiness barely had time to begin before tragedy destroyed their future together. In the end, the man hidden behind Hollywood's deadliest creature became one of the industry's saddest real-life tragedies. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dutch charged through Predator covered in mud, carrying massive weapons, barking orders at his team, and turning pure survival into one of the most iconic action performances of the 1980s. Born on July 30, 1947, in Thal, Austria, Arnold Schwarzenegger was 40 years old when his brutal showdown with the Predator helped cement the film as a legendary sci-fi action classic. By 2026, Arnold Schwarzenegger is 79 years old and remains active through documentaries, business ventures, public speaking, and selective acting projects. His estimated net worth has grown to around $450 million, After decades as a bodybuilding icon, Hollywood superstar, and former governor of California. Even in old age, Schwarzenegger continues drawing global attention every time he appears publicly. But behind the image of unstoppable strength, Arnold spent much of his life fighting painful personal battles and serious health scares. His marriage to Maria Shriver collapsed in scandal after the shocking revelation that he had fathered a child with longtime housekeeper Mildred Baena, triggering a brutal divorce that lasted nearly a decade. At the same time, he quietly endured multiple open-heart surgeries caused by a congenital valve defect, including additional heart procedures in 2018, 2020, and a pacemaker implantation in 2024. In the end, the man famous for playing indestructible heroes spent his real life constantly proving how much pain the human body can actually survive. Elpidia Carrillo as Anna. Anna moved through Predator with terrified eyes, desperate warnings, and the haunting feeling that she already knew something evil was hiding deep inside the jungle. Born on August 16, 1960, in Michoacán, Mexico, Elpidia Carrillo was 26 years old during the first Predator film and returned at age 29 for a brief appearance connected to the sequel. Her emotional performance gave the story a human fear and vulnerability that balanced the film's violence and action. By 2026, Elpidia Carrillo is 65 years old and continues working selectively in film and television while remaining active in cultural and social advocacy projects supporting indigenous and Latin communities. Her estimated net worth is believed to be around $5 million after decades of acting work in both Hollywood and international cinema. Although never treated like a mainstream superstar, Carrillo quietly built a respected career through persistence and resilience. That determination came from surviving an extraordinarily traumatic childhood marked by violence and loss. After her father was murdered during brutal gang conflicts in Mexico, Carrillo's family was torn apart, forcing her to eventually flee alone to the United States, searching for opportunity and safety. Even after reaching Hollywood, she faced constant stereotyping and cruel rumors accusing Latina actresses of exchanging relationships for career advancement. Instead of collapsing under those attacks, Carrillo spent years fighting for dignity and representation while carrying emotional scars that never fully disappeared. In the end, Anna's fear inside the Predator jungle reflected a survival instinct Elpidia Carrillo had already been living with her entire life. Bill Paxton as Jerry Lambert. Jerry Lambert ran through Predator 2 cracking nervous jokes, panicking under pressure, and bringing chaotic energy to the middle of the film's deadly urban nightmare. Born on May 17, 1955 in Fort Worth, Texas, Bill Paxton was 35 years old during Predator 2, and his fast-talking personality and emotional performances later helped make him one of Hollywood's most recognizable character actors of the 1990s. Bill Paxton died on February 25, 2017, at the age of 61 after suffering a fatal stroke caused by complications from heart surgery intended to repair an aortic aneurysm. His family later filed a major lawsuit against Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, alleging medical negligence connected to the operation that led to his death. At the time of his passing, Paxton's estimated net worth stood at around $40 million after decades of success in film and television. That shocking ending felt especially tragic because Paxton had finally reached a stable and peaceful chapter in his personal life after years of struggle. His first marriage to actress Kelly Rowan collapsed in less than a year, leaving him emotionally shaken early in his career. But after marrying Louise Newberry in 1987, he spent nearly 3 decades building a far more stable family life. Friends said Paxton remained energetic and optimistic right up until the surgery that unexpectedly ended his life. In the end, one of Hollywood's most likable actors became the center of one of the industry's most heartbreaking medical tragedies. Sonny Landham, as Billy barely spoke in Predator, but his cold stare, silent tracking instincts, and terrifying calmness made him feel like the only soldier who truly understood the horror waiting in the jungle. Born on February 11, 1941, in Canton, Georgia, Sonny Landham was 46 years old during Predator and instantly stood out because of his intimidating physical presence and unpredictable personality. His performance turned Billy into one of the film's most memorable and mysterious characters, despite having relatively little dialogue. Sonny Landham died on August 17, 2017, at the age of 76, after suffering from congestive heart failure. By the end of his life, years of medical problems, failed political ambitions, and financial collapse had reportedly reduced his estimated net worth to under $100,000. Following a devastating multi-car accident in 2006 that ultimately led to both of his legs being amputated, Landham's health and quality of life rapidly deteriorated. But long before those tragedies, Sonny's life had already been surrounded by violence, controversy, and self-destruction. Financial desperation early in life pushed him into pornography and nude modeling work that later damaged his reputation when he tried entering mainstream Hollywood. During the filming of Predator, his explosive temper became so notorious that producers reportedly hired a bodyguard to protect the cast from him rather than protect him from outsiders. Legal troubles later followed, including harassment charges involving his former wife and public scandals connected to racist political remarks that destroyed what remained of his career. In the end, the actor who looked fearless on screen spent much of his real life trapped in chaos, anger, and personal ruin. Danny Glover as Lieutenant Mike Harrigan. Mike Harrigan stormed through Predator 2 yelling at criminals, charging into gunfights, and refusing to back down even when an alien hunter started slaughtering people across Los Angeles. Born on July 22, 1946, in San Francisco, California, Danny Glover was 44 years old when his intense screen presence and emotional toughness helped turn Harrigan into one of the franchise's most respected characters. By 2026, Danny Glover is 80 years old and remains active through occasional acting projects, humanitarian work, and political activism. His estimated net worth is believed to be around $40 million after decades of success in film and television. Even in older age, Glover continues speaking publicly about racial injustice, labor rights, and social inequality around the world. But behind the strong image he projected on screen, Glover privately spent decades fighting painful physical and emotional battles. From the age of 15 until his mid-30s, he suffered from severe epileptic seizures that made school, communication, and confidence extremely difficult, while lifelong dyslexia added even more frustration to daily life. Later, his 25-year marriage to Asake Bomani ended in divorce, and reportedly caused major emotional and financial strain before his later relationship with Eliane Cavallero also became unstable. Combined with repeated arrests during protests and constant experiences with racial profiling, Glover's real life often became just as exhausting and confrontational as the action heroes he portrayed on screen. R.G. Armstrong as General Phillips. General Phillips carried himself like a hard military commander who looked permanently angry, barking orders and treating every mission in Predator like a matter of life and death. Born on April 7, 1917, in Birmingham, Alabama, R.G. Armstrong was already 70 years old during Predator and brought decades of rugged Western film experience into the role. His weathered face and intimidating authority made him a perfect fit for stern military and frontier characters throughout his long career. R.G. Armstrong died on July 27, 2012, at the age of 95 from natural causes at his home in Studio City, California. By the final years of his life, his health had weakened significantly as age and grief slowly isolated him from public life. At the time of his death, his estimated net worth was around $1.5 million after more than 5 decades working steadily across film and television. As his career slowed down, Armstrong reportedly struggled deeply with loneliness after losing his wife Mary Craven in 2003, following nearly 30 years together. That loss reportedly pushed him into severe depression during the final chapter of his life. Earlier in life, he had already spent years fighting against family expectations that demanded he become a Baptist preacher instead of pursuing acting, creating emotional conflict that followed him for decades. In the end, the actor famous for portraying strong and intimidating men spent his real final years quietly carrying grief and isolation behind closed doors. Calvin Lockhart as King Willie. King Willie stood in the middle of Predator 2 with chilling confidence, mysterious voodoo wisdom, and the terrifying calm of a man who already knew death was coming for him. Born on October 18, 1934, in Nassau, Bahamas, Calvin Lockhart was 56 years old during Predator 2 and delivered one of the film's most unforgettable performances despite limited screen time. His commanding voice and powerful presence helped turn King Willie into one of the cult favorites of the Predator franchise. Calvin Lockhart died on March 29, 2007, at the age of 72 in the Bahamas after suffering severe complications from a stroke. At the time of his death, his estimated net worth was around $1 million after decades spent fighting for fair treatment and equal opportunities within Hollywood. Although widely respected for his talent, Lockhart never fully received the level of fame or financial success many believed he deserved. Much of that frustration followed him throughout his personal life as well. Growing up in poverty, Lockhart worked exhausting jobs as a barber and carpenter just to afford acting lessons after immigrating to New York. Later, repeated clashes with studios over pay inequality and image rights damaged his reputation in Hollywood because he openly challenged how black actors were treated behind the scenes. After all, he spent his real life fighting battles far more exhausting than anything shown on screen. Gary Busey as Peter Keyes. Peter Keyes marched through Predator 2 with wild intensity, paranoid energy, and the desperate obsession of a man convinced he could control something far beyond human understanding. Born on June 29, 1944, in Goose Creek, Texas, Gary Busey was 46 years old during Predator 2 when his explosive acting style and unstable screen presence made Keyes feel dangerous long before the Predator ever appeared. By 2026, Gary Busey is 82 years old and lives far away from the Hollywood success he once enjoyed. Years of lawsuits, addiction, medical problems, and financial collapse reportedly reduced his estimated net worth to only around $500,000. His public appearances in recent years have become increasingly controversial and erratic, shocking many longtime fans who remember the talented actor he once was. That downward spiral began after a horrific motorcycle accident in 1988, left Busey with catastrophic brain injuries after riding without a helmet. Friends and colleagues later claimed the trauma completely changed his personality, triggering increasingly reckless behavior, aggression, and emotional instability that slowly destroyed his career and relationships. Addiction problems soon followed, including a near-fatal cocaine overdose in 1995, while multiple failed marriages collapsed into legal fights and public scandals. Then in 2022, Busey faced new sexual misconduct accusations that pushed his reputation even deeper into controversy. In the end, the actor once praised for his brilliance became one of Hollywood's most tragic examples. Lillian Chauvin as Irene Edwards. Irene Edwards appeared in Predator 2 with the stern elegance and sharp authority of someone who looked like she had already survived far too much suffering in life. Born on August 6, 1925, in Paris, France, Lillian Chauvin was 65 years old during Predator 2, and her intense performances made her especially memorable in darker dramatic and horror roles throughout her career. Lillian Chauvin died on June 26, 2008, at the age of 82 in Los Angeles after a devastating battle with metastatic breast cancer combined with congestive heart failure. Even while her health deteriorated badly during her later years, she continued teaching and mentoring younger actors whenever possible. At the time of her death, Her estimated net worth was around $2 million after decades of work across film, television, theater, and education. Much of Chauvin's emotional pain traced back to the trauma she experienced during Nazi occupation in France as a child, where constant bombings and scenes of death reportedly haunted her for the rest of her life. After arriving in America in 1952 with almost nothing, she struggled through years of instability while teaching herself English and working multiple jobs simply to survive. Her marriage to Bernard Chauvin also collapsed shortly after moving to the United States, adding even more emotional isolation during the hardest years of her life. In the end, Liliane Chauvin survived war, poverty, illness, and heartbreak while quietly becoming one of Hollywood's most resilient hidden talents. Jesse Ventura as Blaine stomped through Predator carrying a massive minigun, chewing tobacco, and acting like the loudest and toughest man in the jungle every second he was on screen. Born on July 15, 1951 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Jesse Ventura was 36 years old during Predator and instantly stood out because of his intimidating wrestler physique and aggressive personality. His unforgettable one-liners and over-the-top confidence helped turn Blaine into one of the most iconic supporting characters in the film. By 2026, Jesse Ventura is 75 years old and remains active through political commentary, podcasts, interviews, and occasional television appearances. Ventura has also remained married to his wife Terry Ventura since 1975, making theirs one of the rare, long-lasting marriages connected to action star fame. But behind the fearless image, Ventura spent years struggling with emotional scars left by military service in Vietnam and the intense PTSD that followed him after returning home. Later in life, his decision to sue the family of deceased sniper Chris Kyle over statements made in the book American Sniper triggered massive public backlash even after Ventura won the lawsuit and received $1.8 million in damages. Many veterans and fans accused him of attacking a grieving widow over money, turning him into one of the most controversial figures connected to both politics and military culture. In the end, the man who looked indestructible in Predator spent much of his real-life fighting battles that no weapon could ever fully silence. Sylvia Cowders as Ruth. Ruth appeared in Predator 2 as the frightened elderly woman whose quiet presence briefly brought a human sense of vulnerability into the middle of the film's violence and chaos. Born on September 1, 1922, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Sylvia Cowders was 69 years old during Predator 2, and her natural warmth and believable screen presence helped her quietly stand out in supporting roles throughout her unusual late-blooming career. Sylvia Cowders died on May 5, 2016, at the age of 94 after suffering a sudden heart attack in New York City. At the time of her death, her estimated net worth was around $1.2 million following years of steady work in film and television. Even with that peaceful reputation, Sylvia carried deep financial anxiety for most of her life because of growing up during the Great Depression. Those childhood fears reportedly stayed with her long after success finally arrived decades later. After losing her husband Randall Cowders following a lifelong marriage, she quietly continued living alone while dedicating herself almost entirely to acting. In the end, Sylvia Cowders became proof that even in Hollywood, it is never too late for a forgotten dream to finally find its moment. Bill Duke as Mac wandered through Predator with haunted eyes, paranoid whispers, and that unforgettable razor scene that made him feel like a man mentally breaking apart inside the jungle. Born on February 26, 1943, in Poughkeepsie, New York, Bill Duke was 44 years old during Predator and delivered one of the film's most psychologically intense performances. His towering 6'4" frame and intimidating appearance helped make Mac one of the most memorable characters in the entire movie. By 2026, Bill Duke is 83 years old and continues working selectively as an actor, director, educator, and mentor within the film industry. His estimated net worth is believed to be around $4 million after decades spent building a respected career both in front of and behind the camera. Even in older age, Duke remains admired for helping create opportunities for younger black filmmakers in Hollywood. But behind the powerful screen image, Duke spent years privately battling isolation and painful judgment tied to his appearance. Early in his career, directors repeatedly rejected him because they believed he looked too frightening for mainstream audiences, limiting the kinds of roles he was offered. His decision to remain unmarried and childless also triggered cruel rumors and speculation about his sexuality throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Instead of publicly fighting those attacks, Duke retreated into a quieter life centered around meditation, spirituality, and personal discipline. Now we know he became known in real life as one of Hollywood's calmest and most thoughtful creative voices. Richard Chavez as Pancho. Pancho moved through Predator with sharp survival instincts, nervous humor, and the exhausted look of a soldier who had already seen too much violence long before entering the jungle. Born on October 9, 1951, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Richard Chavez was 36 years old during Predator and brought real military experience into the role as an actual war veteran. His grounded performance helped make Pancho feel more authentic and human compared to the larger-than-life action heroes surrounding him. By 2026, Richard Chavez is 75 years old and reportedly lives a quiet, highly private life away from mainstream Hollywood. After years of reduced acting opportunities and long periods outside public attention, his estimated net worth is believed to be around $800,000. Unlike many former action stars, Chavez rarely appears publicly and has largely withdrawn from the entertainment industry. That disappearance reportedly came after years of emotional trauma and fear that completely changed the direction of his life. Already struggling with depression and psychological scars connected to his military past, Chavez later became the target of a dangerous stalker during the late 1990s who repeatedly threatened both him and his family. According to reports, the situation became so severe that he limited public appearances, abandoned major acting opportunities, and even began living more anonymously to protect the people closest to him. The constant stress reportedly placed enormous pressure on his marriage and personal stability. After all, he spent much of his real life hiding from dangers that felt frighteningly real. So that was the cast of Predator and Predator 2 after 39 years. And behind the explosions, muscles, and unforgettable battles were lives filled with heartbreak, illness, addiction, scandal, and painful personal struggles that fans never expected. Which Predator star shocked you the most today? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more incredible then and now stories from legendary movies.